gonna hope. What's up, guys? We are here. We are back for... Might this be the last Around the Hearth for the blogs? I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't think we got a new one today. I've been all over creation.
We have not.
No, so what am I gonna do tonight? I have no plans tonight for the first time in, like, since March. That's sweet. I really like that.
Are you actually going to sleep?
Nah, bah!
Yeah.
I'll just make more videos. Of course, as you can hear him, we are joined today by Adam Spain of the Inn of Planar Crossroads. And remember, if you aren't subscribed to that channel, we can't be friends. I think, actually, Adam is just shy of 300 subscribers. Unless he might have crossed over. Last time I checked, I think you were at like 296, I think. You're at 290. What? Okay, never mind. I had that number incorrect. Because where's one? 298. Oh, okay, never mind. I see you are. So we need two people right now. Click that button. Go in and play Crossroads. Help these guys out. We couldn't exist without them. They're wonderful people, but we're not here to talk all about them today. Today we're here to talk all about the half-breeds of Pathfinder 2nd Edition and Multiclassing in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, two really huge blogs that I'm still kind of wrapping my head around. Because, like, they spell the future of Pathfinder really, really, really hard. So if you didn't know, if you haven't seen the video, the half-breeds in Pathfinder now, that's a human ancestry feat, which I like it. I like it a lot. I've seen in a couple places on a couple of forums that it feels kind of feat taxy, as opposed to just making it another race, but it opens up the floodgates for anything you want to do ever that's not in the book. They said half orc, half dwarf. I've heard half goblin. I've heard half halfling, which what even is that? I've everything in between. What do you guys think about it?
Looking at all the race feats, I'm definitely seeing human and variant for the human subtype for the other half. This is something that is quite doable for any custom race base. So the Dampier using the human, it would be the Dampier feat. The human would be something I can see how they have it set up for the half. Or anything like that, and even the T potentially if it's human at the base.
Yeah, that's the Tieflings, that's the Azamars, that's every like half-breed race that we've seen in Pathfinder so far is now reduced to it. Well, not reduced. That makes it sound really bad, but it's become an ancestry feat that we can take. I really like it. I think it's really cool. Again, it opens up a lot of like the floodgates of building custom races, because I don't really like the way the Advanced Race Guide did it, because I think the RP system in a lot of cases can be really, really, really arbitrary in terms of like, this is this much power, and some of the things are just really not, or some of the things that are worth like one or two. I think like Samsarin Reincarnated Magic, or what, I forget what it's called, but it's not worth a whole lot of RP, but it's just like super strong. And this is just kind of like, it's a system that didn't work as well as just, here's a feat. Now you're a half this, and you qualify for that feat and this feat.
Definitely the race creation in first edition, it wasn't as ironed out as it should have been.
Yeah, I agree.
I know that I really like this change, because when making my own homebrew campaign system, as well as the setting to go with it, I was like, okay, humans are the new kids on the block, and they're called the different, they're a mixed breed of everything, and that's how you get a human rather than being one. And this just fits really, really well into that. Now that's probably not how Brokers is going to work out, but we'll see. It'll have what happens with the storyline, but I love this. I love that you got the human baseline, and then if you're half something, your human baseline by saying, well, I'm half elf, or you can do like doing in the new game that we're running in 2nd edition, and have to have half elf orc, because the 9 guilds, the half races are actually more common than humans because of just the way the development of Kelagoth has gone on. So this fits real with that, and I'm very, very excited to be able to use, like you mentioned, what did I call it? The dwark. The dwark will be RK. The dwark will be excellent. I love the idea of a dwark. I love the idea of a dwelf, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people comment on videos, or on not videos, but like in forums and stuff, and they've said that they really like the notion of it because they're tired of like the Tolkien-esque elves. And a lot of times I think that's setting dependent, and you, the GM, can write the elves however you please. But like a half orc, half elf who's a little more like along the lines of like a militaristic like Skyrim elf or Skyrim orc kind of thing, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it, that's really cool, and it flips the script on everything. I think we've seen the Kitsune as well, like I said, because a Kitsune is a human that can shapeshift. So it's...
That's what I was talking with Donald about, that you came in. I think they're going to do that with Kitsune, for the same reason I don't think they'll do that with Serpent Folk, do that with, whatever other, especially Asian-themed you want to go with.
Yeah.
Simply because Kitsune are their own creatures.
They're not, but also one must remember a Kitsune can be created. When a human and a Kitsune mate, it does create a Kitsune. So it's technically a half race.
Yes, but they're never... It takes its mother's race. So, like, Kitsune have their own lore. They don't... Because you can... And the reason I say that is... without humans, but you can't have half-orc elves without humans. Kitsune can exist without humans. There's no requirement for it to be human to be a Kitsune. Kitsune is their own adaptability. At least I don't think they should make it. I don't think that would be going too far with this whole feat thing, is if they made all the races like that. Because if they were going to do that, then they should have made dwarves elves that way. They should have made all the races that way and used human as your paint, your board as your easel, and then your race was your paintbrush. I don't think that's what... I know it's not really what I would prefer. I like the idea that, yes, it's versatile genetically, that their DNA is the most malleable, but they are not the only race.
Tommy, when it comes to certain races, each of the races have their own lore, how they are made. So not all of them have a origin. So
yeah, I definitely know that. It's just I think the Kitsune could be a race that could fall in there in the same way we'll see like Geniekin, Skinwalkers, a lot of races. Like certainly, of course, not a dwarf. That makes no sense. That's its own independent thing. But like a Kitsune can spring from a human, and it's like half the time when you're playing a Kitsune, you look like a human anyway. So it's minus
again, Kitsune are Japanese. They only look like a human. Humans. Their real form is not human. Their real form is Kitsune. So their lore is that they are their own race that changes to not a human that, like, he can breed true. A elf will make a half elf, but a human and a half elf will make a half. Kitsune and a Kitsune will always make another Kitsune, and apparently Kitsune's genes are so strong that even if a Kitsune breeds with a human, it will, which means their genetics are more dominant in the lore. Like in the Dragon Empires, they have their own lore. They're not in the same way that Tengu are. Tengu, a half Tengu might be possible. Sex magic.
Yeah,
but
I was gonna say that's about as possible as the Kitsune and the Tengu getting it on in the first place. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Tommy, the way the familiar races like the Draugr or any of the such as the Draugr or any of the other monster races, if attack feet VTAC, so the dwarves for all the dwarf subtypes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I believe we'll see the Sphere of Nebulum be a gnome ancestry feat. Same with the Drow, the Druger, the. I guess that's all.
A Drow would be under the L.
Correct. Just like Sphere of Nebulum would be under the gnomes. Yeah. That's assuming that people are down with the change, I think. I think this is just kind of our tentative step into the water of it. Personally, I think it's cool. I think it's a little more mix and matchy, but I could also see them walking it back because it does kind of, to me, feel like a feat tax if you want to play a half-elf, because that costs me, tomorrow, a week from tomorrow, for Session 1 of Broken Universe, when I play Octarian, I'm playing a human who had to use his ancestry feat not to get the bonus feat or to get the the buff to stuff, but to instead get all the to qualify for half elf things.
Well, I will say that they're probably going to make it. We haven't seen them. I don't think they say directly in here how you do. A human gets a bonus. I don't think that humans get X amount of feats or something like that.
Humans get a bonus feat or a bonus.
Right. So this may just replace the bonus feat.
No, they get a bonus feat as an ancestry feat. It's in that blog. I'm about 90% sure. I need to open it up, but somewhere in here.
Thing is, this just may replace other abilities that you got. Replace it for other abilities. Otherwise, it does get kind of feat. You're having to spend your first feat.
Yeah, you got to spend that first ancestry feat.
First.
I don't. Well, I mean, if you get a dedicated ancestry feat, acquired dedicated ancestry feat, which it's not bad to spend on. I don't think that's called feat taxi because you're spending it on an ancestry feat anyway. So I can see why people would think that at first. I think that's a first edition mentality starting on a second edition situation.
Yeah, but you can see it in the blog. It's called a Natural Ambition, which is a ancestry feat for humans, which lets them gain an extra first level class feat. So it's in a way you're making a new race with it, but it's also tack on a thing to not get the bonus feat from being human. I guess you're not wrong. It's a first edition mentality, that's a feat tax, but also it's what am I trying to say? It's it feels like a human who has to take combat expertise, who then, as he goes on and on, qualifies for all the other stuff he can get from being a half elf or a half orc, etc.
You can always flavor or a half orc, and you just never explore that feat.
That's also true.
It that way.
Yeah.
Because with the way this works, you could be a half orc who just never explores his orc, and so you never take the ancestry feat. But you could be a half orc.
Be a half orc in flavor, but a human in mechanics.
Human mechanics with a half orc just body, and that's what I think. That's what this allows a lot more than you could
ever did in 1E. Yeah, you're not wrong.
But you always had that reminder. You always had that reminder of half orc, but you don't behave like a half orc. Like a half orc, you have the adopted feat you have the adopted trait, so you have half orc influences really, and all of this. You're again a half orc in cosmetics only.
Yeah, and that's definitely a way people can certainly do it. That might be what I do with Octarian. I don't know. Like, I'm gonna have to open up the book before I can make any like final calls or decisions or anything like that, because it's really hard. Like, I know what I want to play. I'm playing it for a reason, but also it's really hard to be like, I'm gonna play this, having never seen the book, having never, like, other than what we've seen in the blogs, been able to pick or choose anything. Again, though, I kind of feel like they're just kind of like gingerly stepping into it, and it might come back, but I definitely, like, I feel that way harder about how multiclassing is going to work in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and truly, I think, now that I've, like, mulled on it a little, multiclassing is the only thing that's been really disappointing to me, and that's literally just because we only have the 4 in the playtest. We just have the fighter, cleric, wizard, rogue, yeah.
It is a playtest.
Yeah, and it's, like, it's a big jump.
But before we dive into that, Levi, about the races?
The main thing I wanted to say is that even though like, you have to pick one specific feat to get the half-elf by rules as written, you are definitely getting notable things that are useful with character concepts out of it, and it seems like it would most likely be similar in power level to feats. So, like, out of those 4 options, most characters could use better light visions, 5 foot of... maybe the diplomacy, and I forget what the 4th one was.
The 4th one is, oh god, what is the 4th one?
Speed.
No, he said speed.
I already said speed.
I think there's just 2. Oh, you can get Elven as added to your list of languages.
Okay.
Elven tongue.
Depending on your campaign and the scarcity of languages, it could be helpful.
That could be, that's either very, very relevant or very, like, not relevant.
Yeah. But, like, the 5 feet of movement and the low light vision will help just about any character.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
You don't have to outrun the bear, you just gotta outrun the dude in full plate. And if you're also the dude in full plate, that extra 5 feet might get you there.
Yeah.
And the being trained in diplomacy.
So just mostly want to point out.
Too. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The fact that even though you have to pick a specific one, the specific feat, you have choices built into it, so it's way less feat taxy than normal feat taxes.
That is very true.
Well, also, if we did not mention orc ferocity and the way for Kane, because Kane would probably bring up orc ferocity being really good now.
I don't think it's necessarily, like, really good. It's...
Well, there's a big difference between being at 0 and disabled at 1 hit point.
Yeah, but you're not at 0 and
1
disabled in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. At 0, you're at dying 1. So that's... like, it's definitely a thing. I feel like I would not call it better now, because if it functioned the same way it did in 1st edition, you'd be at dying 1, 2, 3, but still up and able to move.
Well, the way that it works in 1st edition, if I remember right, is that you are 0. You are at 0, and doing anything except moving is going to be bad for you.
Anytime you're dying.
Well, you're at 0 hit points.
Or like -5.
You're unconscious, correct?
No, at 0 hit points you're disabled. Well, in second edition at 0 hit points you're dying 1. In 1st edition, if you're at 0 hit points, you're disabled, and if you do anything strenuous, then you go to -1 and are dying. And ferocity says essentially that you're disabled the entire time you're dying.
Right. That you can stay up as an orc, but you can't. The only thing you can do is stay up, basically. You can't. If you attack one on something strenuous, versus orc ferocity in 2nd edition, you can not. You not only have one hit point and not be disabled. You have no negative condition, so you could technically and hold the door. You get all 3 of your actions. You don't have
Yeah, it's like they definitely had to overhaul it because they've overhauled the way dying worked. I think it was stronger back then because like if I'm at -5, if you hit me and I'm playing an orc and I go to -5 and then ferocity kicks, then I'm at -5 and then on my next turn I'm disabled. I take a standard action, and this is why if I play Necross anymore, eventually he's gonna take Vital Strike, is because I have ferocity because I'm a full orc and I want to be able to like take advantage of it. I would Vital Strike you with like my bow or something, and then I'd go to from -5 to -6 and still have ferocity on, and it's still just like it's there. It's that extra net of like on most characters 10 to 12 extra hit points, which is why like it's probably, I won't call it the strongest race trait in Pathfinder First Edition, but I do believe it is definitely up there, especially for like barbarians, kineticists, pre-errata, the scarred witch doctors, etc., etc. Here it's good, and it functions a little more like the half-orc's ferocity did, which is what it is, where you had the half-orc only had it once a day, so you'd hit it and you'd have the ability to be down in the negatives until you went back to positives. Whereas here it's just kind of like a get out of jail free card, which is still good. It's just like, again, I wouldn't necessarily say it was... You must have, yeah, I didn't hear a word you're saying.
Okay. What I was saying, why I think that orc ferocity is because of the amount of actions you get. Because if you get all 3 of your actions and you still get all 3 of your actions, it makes it better than the because you are not disabled. There's no penalty to what you're doing. There's no restriction on what you can do anything you want to without any penalty while you're still at 1 hit point.
Yeah, that is a thing. It sucks to be disabled. Again, that's why I think orcs take Vital Strike, is because that way they can still... It's kind of like, oh god, the capstone for the Stalwart Defender. When you would go down, you get to hit him and you double your dice, and that stacks with Vital Strike, I think. I don't remember, but it's really good, and it's kind of like... In that same vein, I don't like the once per day. I get the once per day because you could abuse... the crap out of orc ferocity if you had any ability to mess with positive energy on your character. Like I was playing a hunter who had stabilize, and that was the idea. I'd go to -5 and I'd be in trouble, and then I'd cast stabilize on myself, and then I'm just disabled and don't take more than a move action. Limp where someone can help me, or be able to cast even just like cure light wounds becomes really relevant if you go from -4 to +2, and then like you get hit again and you go back down.
Right. I was just thinking that usually if your orc's going down and having to use his orc ferocity in First Edition, that means stuff's going bad.
Yeah, but that's why we have things like that, is in case things do go bad. Like I don't take... well, I didn't take it. I didn't have it, I guess, on an orc under the notion that like things would go good, because if things go good, I'd never use it. It's the same with orc ferocity here. Like if things are going good, you don't go to 0 hit points.
Alright.
So we've got, let's see. I like Inspire Imitation quite a bit for half-elves because, like I said in my video, it's real relevant when you get to a place where somebody in the party can't swim, and then they start to drown because they have because they're Emmy, essentially. And if, like, the half-elf can get people out of that, and I really like that a whole lot. I think that it's as good as the setting you're in, and it's as good as, like, the party context, or party build, I guess, rather, but it's still, I think that's really strong.
Advisor could be something like the person in full plate now has the ability to else's stealth, or not completely, but you know what I mean. It helps out with that. It can mean a lot. It can mean a lot.
There's also, it's like, that's super good on like half-elf rogues, the classic, or bards, the iconic skill monkeys. in situations where everybody has to make a check for things. Oh god, would that also I guess would that let you aid people on initiative? It would, wouldn't it? Because if you roll perception for initiative and you crit it, the aid reaction is a reaction. Perception's not a skill anymore either, yeah. So like if we're all stealthing and then we have to roll initiative off stealth because that's how that's functioning. But it's a reaction, so I assume you could not take the reaction to just like make somebody have a more buffed initiative, but if so, that's really cool. Okay, now if no one will interrupt now, we will go, now that we've covered the whole blog, to the multi-classing. And like I said, I wish we could have seen more. I wish we could have seen it for everybody, because it seems really fun to play with. It seems like, from what I'm understanding from talking to people and stuff, there's a lot of prestige classes kind of built into the, like, to running it this way. Like, if you're playing a fighter and you multi-class wizard or vice versa, suddenly you're the Eldritch Knight, or also even, I guess, the Magus. I hadn't thought about that. If you're playing the wizard who goes into cleric or vice versa, now you're a Mystic Urge. And the possibilities, they seem really strong, at least from the outset. I'd have to see the fighter is the one I'm the most curious about, because the character I'll be playing probably multi-classes fighter, if it's good. Probably.
Well, I think multiclassing, I don't know. Again, it's the same thing with classes feeling distinct. I understand why they're wanting to use the rules for archetypes and prestige classes and kind of rolling them into this feat. I understand the reasoning for it. I don't know. I feel like it can lead to some, I guess, interesting builds are alluding to, but builds that I wouldn't really think would be if you're a fighter and you take wizard levels and you take wizard dedication at 2, you're basically a magus. You're going to cap out at 8th level casting if you invest all the feats into it, and I mean it will take up your feats. You will be that, and they will be feats that you would want if you were going to do that. It does have a Build-A-Bear Workshop type of
it does
feel to it.
All of 2nd edition kind of does, for real.
You go to the buffet and you pick the feat you want. You pick the stuff you want, and you have to caveat, you have to take 3 of this feat before you can take another dedication, which makes sense. It's that necessarily, because that prevents single dipping, which is something. Now this also is going to be an important decision, because you're going to have to, that single dip is going to be a 3-dip commitment, because you need to do that if you want to take any other archetypes. So, if you have an archetype that you want, but you also want to dip with, pick which one you want to do first, and you're going to have to hope you make it to the level necessary. So if you wanted to be a rogue magus, you would have to do your magus stuff first, or your rogue stuff first, while being a fighter, instead of...
There's the arcane trickster too, huh? A rogue who goes into wizard, or a wizard who goes into rogue.
And if that's something you want, then you get that ahead of time. I think that this leads very dynamic character creation, or very out character creation.
Yeah.
You either have to know what you're doing, or you either are going to be podge if you start dabbling in a bunch of different things. Can't be too podge simply because you have to take 3. But that aside,
yeah, I could see, you could definitely pretty easily become a jack of all trades and a master of nothing. if you if you mess with this a little too hard. But I suppose, like, also you could do that in Pathfinder First Edition by dipping all over the place. And I will say that I think it's better to do it this way than to dip into other classes to get your stuff, because not only does that make it way, way easier on the spellcasters, who are often the ones who want to go into other classes, it also prevents, like, to call it the Uncanny Valley is wrong, but I'm gonna contradict myself really hard here, but, like, how did that guy get a monk level? Out of nowhere. Well, because I wanted my charisma to armor class, of course. But, like, for, like, a story reason, oftentimes that makes zero sense at all. And now, like, you'll still kind of see it in Pathfinder 2nd Edition in the terms of, like, now how's that guy got spells and stuff? But it's no longer just for, like, purely the sake of optimization, which still leads me to believe that, and we'll explore this more as we start putting min-maxing videos out for the playtest, which should be in the next couple weeks. I really feel like there's going to be a very even playing field for every class in Pathfinder 2nd Edition in terms of, like, who is more powerful than others. I think it's going to be just flat. Everyone's real good.
Well, I think from what I'm assessing, your for lack of a better word, main class, your single class, because you're not going to be multi-classed in the traditional sense. You're not going to have, like, Wizard 5 up at the top of your sheet and then Fighter. You're going to have Wizard up at the top of your sheet. You're going to have Barbarian on your sheet, and then the other stuff will be in your feats area. What this is going to mean also, that when you take a class, your class that you are is the most important decision to make for any game that is not a one-shot, because that
it's definitely, like, you are that thing with a little bit of that other thing, not the, like you said, like, Sorcerer 2, Paladin 2, Scaled Fist 1, Swashbuckler 1, Fighter X that you might normally see in games like this. It's which that's definitely a thing, and to not even, like, start on, like, prestige classes was very common in Pathfinder First Edition, and now we won't see it. In theory, this is one of the things also that I could see Paizo backpedaling on if it doesn't work out, but I think it will. I think it'd be fine. It kind of also, like, and I'm just now realizing this, but when we saw the stuff for dipping into Wizard, you saw, like, even though you cast off this, you only get half the spells you normally would. And that instantly makes you kind of, anyway, like a Blood Rager or a Ranger or a Paladin of First Edition who only had the 1 through 4. Kind of. You can get all the way up to 8th level spells, but being chopped in half like that, I think that's where you'll see the, like, half casters. And also, for the record, I really wish Kane would have made it to this.
That's what they talked about in...
Good.
Well, that's what they talked about in the Bard interview with No Direction. They talked about... They asked the question, what do you think the highest... what do you think the highest level of... will be? He said, about 4th, How about 8th? That means you're going to have 8th level spells, and that's pretty powerful spells.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
I mean, if you're going as a blaster caster, here's my assessment. If you're going as a blaster caster, or someone who's just going to care about DPS, not really care about much else, or even if you're not, okay, going to play somebody, like you want to be a wizard that's not super squishy. Dude. And this is kind of where my problem might come in. All you would have to do, make your first and true level be a fighter, and then from then on, all you do is invest into magic feats. All of a sudden, you're die with the spell casting power of a half caster, But a half caster that has a lot of health, half caster that has pretty heavy duty stuff going on as far as armor penalties, getting rid of things like that, being able to use anything. If you invested in charisma too, I mean, you're set.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm kind of like, I'm in a similar boat with how I'm, again, this is all theory crafting. I've yet to see anything. So it's really hard to do. But I'm kind of in a similar boat with Octarian. Start out as a ranger, get my animal companion, and then just invest real heavy in things that make me better in combat. So if I do choose to, can I even call it multi-class? I feel like calling it multiclassing is wrong now. If I choose to take the fighter archetype for the purpose of, like, I would do it so I'd be a little better, because I'm predominantly going to be a horse archer, but if I want to be better, like sword and board, I would dip into fighter to go that route. And I'd be just as well off, but also outside of combat, I would have most of the skill points. Cashew will have more, I think. Yeah, he will. That's awkward. But the point is, I'll be able to do stuff outside of combat instead of just shoot things in the face until they are dead. And I really like that.
Tommy, one issue I can see with how the multi-class works is, on paper, in theory, this should work pretty well, but paper, in practice and in theory, all those things, they see how this is going to play out at the end.
Yeah, well, we just got, this will go live Tuesday morning, so we just got a couple of days, and then we have it in our, well, not in our hands, well, I'll have my PDF, and then I'll have 24 hours to make sure I can run 2nd edition before we start playing Doomsday Dawn. But, trial by fire, my favorite kind of way to GM, forever. But I think it's, like,
audiobook won't be out that fast, Tom. You're gonna have to deal with it.
No, it'll be great. My real book will be, I think it's already in Marshall. I think it's just, like, they can't deliver it until August 2nd, so it'll, like, show up at my dad's on Thursday.
I don't know if that's the thing, because somebody's got theirs already.
What? Where do they live?
Another country.
Oh, in another country. Never mind. I can't make it there. But it was tempting, because I want to see it, because I'm stoked.
Like Sweden or something.
In Sweden. So that's why Alex is going on about trying to find a copy.
I am sort of excited. I'm going to have an order copy in the future, so that's going to be fun.
I think coming back to I think that it could work fine, but they're going to have to do something about the hit point disparity. I really think they should just let you take a level and get the first. I don't think they should have to they a bunch to it to the way it already works to make it viable in 2nd edition.
Sure.
But I understand why they don't want those single dips, but what you're doing with the feats anyway. There's absolutely, I mean, in my opinion, no reason not to take a barbarian or fighter level for the hit points. If you're talking about min-maxing, get your hit points set for level 1. That's the toughness feat in 1st edition.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
It is just flat better. Take a large hit point pool individual. Play smart and get your feats ever class you actually wanted to go into. Because you're going to miss out at what? You're going to and not get your caps. You're not going to get, your, like, if we're talking about spells for whatever as far as 9th and 10th level. Those are world game-breaking spells. But the idea that but you're going to get something of comparable level. You're going to get 8th level spells.
Getting to
cast
up to 8th level, that's for a build that is a blaster type.
Yeah. I mean, 8th level spells for a blaster, or even if you're not, because barbarians can cast while raging as long as it doesn't have a
Somatic,
if you
I
only
believe.
take those spells.
Mhm.
So if you only take, you're pretty well set for what you want to do.
I agree.
And
My-
it's kind of a problem.
With the way how the feats work, I mean, of the Gestalt builds, how they some ways.
Yeah. I think also that
I mean,
a character in second edition, for the same reason, like the blaster, oftentimes, and this is the voice of experience from a one-shot at IOPC, the blaster will oftentimes not have the right resources for a given encounter, to say nothing of like, I've prepped all these fire spells. Oh, a red dragon. Damn it. With the extra spell slots, especially from a different class, or a different, not even really a different class, but like a different set of spells. If you're like a primal sorcerer who dips wizard for some arcane spells, you have more options for like your backup pool of spells in case plan A doesn't work, for the same reason that your stats would need to be funny. But you could play a sorcerer and be like uber blasty, and then multi-class archetype into cleric and just have the ability to sustain yourself because you're still charisma based as a sorcerer. And I think some of the abilities of the cleric, I don't quite remember off the top of my head, were based off charisma, so it's a little bit pivoty, and I like it.
well, I don't know. I think that fighters in the meta that's being set up in this, fighters will be king.
Yeah, fighters
I know
looking
I said
great.
that about.
Oh yeah.
I know I said that about the bards, but that was before multiclassing came out. Which, if you can have the hit points of a fighter with the access to the amount of feats they get a feat every level. If you have access to that and pair it up with this type of multiclassing, you are the most versatile possible class to have. You have available hit points, and depending on what race, what your ABCs are, your background, so your A and your B ABCs, you could do practically anything.
Yeah.
One build I'm seeing can be quite effective if I take the wizard's feat. So picture this: fully armored a fighter with a shield, wearing heavy armor, with the proper stats buffs from the wizard spellcast, and then blaster damaging spells. That's exactly combo right there.
It really is, yeah.
A lot of AAC, high hit points, and high damaging blasters. And then with the stats, if you make the fighter properly, with relatively high int con, you have build right there.
Also,
But
you know what I'm realizing? Like, if you play a fighter and you take a long sword, bastard sword with proficiency, battle axe, etc., a weapon that can be wielded one or two-handed, if I cast shield, is it treated as a shield for the purpose of the shield feats? Because that's really versatile. Just as a reaction.
Yeah, I'm
As some kind of arcane feat you can take, arcane shield master or something.
Seems good.
if anyone can use a shield through the multi-class system here, I'm sure most of the builds will take that into consideration for that AC alone, because shields, from what I know how they work, is going to be quite essential for a certain
survival.
build.
Yeah, oh my god, shields are... It's like how Eric Mona said it on No Direction. in real life, shields are really important to the survival of the the medieval era soldier, and in old Pathfinder, you never see it ever. If you're using a shield, you're wrong because you're not big great axe damaging, or you're not dual wielding like wakizashis with a 15 to 20 threat range. Here, they're just like, it's DR. It's really good. Like, definitely 100%. I am gonna try to. I have another character I'm playing in Pathfinder 2nd Edition for at least a little bit, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna multi-class wizard. I'm pretty sure, but like, I'm also pretty sure Octarian will multi-class fighter, if for no other reason than I just want to get my hands on it, play around with it, that kind of thing.
One character, if I have the time to play 2nd edition, I will probably Victorious and make him a Eldritch Knight.
Bringing him back.
You enjoy the Eldritch Knight archetype for the fighter, getting to cast AoE spells. Part of me just want to add to that as the action, getting to do additional damage on top of your melee. Fear me, evil creatures, as I will burn you with not.
Well, classing the way it's working, I see that I'm at least looking out. Going to go, if you want to break the game, or if you want to get close to having the most optimal you can. This is without being able to look at the rulebook. So, future commenters, that's my.
Take it with a grain of salt for now.
Yeah. You make a Dex fighter. You take the feats not for wizard but for sorcerer when it comes out. And you can't right now, but if this consistently goes into the playtest and into the official edition, fighter, sorcerer archetype, and you make a melee touch / a melee, not a melee touch, a blaster caster with a shield you can cast, and you are basically a fully armed knight from Skyrim.
Also, we meaning left invest in the rogue feats just to have evade rogue abilities as well.
That's also.
Yeah, evasion.
You will have feats left over as a fighter.
Evasion is quite useful, just in 3 levels dip in 1st edition just for that alone.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. Evasion has more than once saved my life. And I really also like that,
ISO. There you go.
I like that rogues are getting fortitude evasion, and monks are getting, I think, will evasion, essentially. It's been a while since I thought about the class. But, it's super powerful. Anywho. So we've pretty much landed on everything from both those blogs.
Yeah, Levi, you got anything you want to say? You ain't talking.
I should bring back up is that the multi-class feats get the spell slots slower, drastically fewer spell slots.
Right, unless they, again, the sorcerer, which will have more spell slots.
Wizards and sorcerers have the same number of spell slots.
Mm.
But cast more.
In what way do sorcerers get to cast more?
Sorcerers should be able to, if I remember right, that they'll get to still cast more often than a wizard would.
I believe that's incorrect. I believe they have the exact same number of spell slots this go around. It's been a while since I looked at the blog, but is that the feat that let you get the spells? You had one of what, and they scaled back slower than the normal caster would have.
So even though you're getting partial casting, it is much weaker and a little bit slower than the full casters. At least many fewer slots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. It's not like you can't dip wizard as a fighter and have the wizard who is just a wizard's like his full arsenal. But it's still a thing for sure. I also think we'll see a lot more of like you'll dip wizard to buff yourself. Like I said in my blog, in my post rather, it's because the big 6 is no longer a thing. The buffs are going to be more relevant, and also the DC is lower. Because I think you use half your level to determine your DCs when you multi-class as well. So, like, you're not necessarily targeting them so much as you're targeting the rest of the party.
Based on based on the amount of spells the wizard and sorcerer get, if you just pure buff magic user out to ignite Magus build, assuming most of the spells from first edition is going to be carried over, especially for combat buff ones that the sorcerer and wizard get, you don't need that many spells in combat effectively if you're going for a certain build, magic user fighter effectively.
That's true. Does change the way the assessment goes then, because I had forgotten that they don't get the same amount of spells, which means you just focus on like Donald was saying, you focus on, like Tommy was saying, party buff spells, and you're still the strongest buffer that you could get, depending on how stacks, what type of spells will stack that you can find. So I don't know. I don't know. Just gonna action, it seems.
Yeah.
This can either be really good or really bad.
Only tell what actually sticks when it comes to in theory, in practice, and what works on paper.
Yeah, and we'll know soon. It's pretty exciting. I'm super down again. I'm definitely, if for no other reason than it's there and it might change, I will definitely try it. And like worst case scenario, if it's bad, that's kind of like the glory of the playtest. If it's bad in downtime, rules exist for sure that we can use to retrain. So if like dipping wizard did not prove advantageous for you as your fighter, you just go back and fix it. Easy peasy.
Yeah. Game runs like in game, that can get pretty powerful if you can untrain and retrain into different things like that. We'll have to see. Most games don't have to worry about that whole "you have years to spend" thing, but some do.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I don't know, we'll have to see. Anyway, I think we've pretty much hit all the things. I don't know like if anybody has any final thoughts or anything. I'm just super stoked to get my hands on it for real. It's going to be nice tomorrow to be in a session 0. It'll be the first session 0 I've ever been in when I didn't have a character sheet. And I'm just like sitting down and role-playing my character.
Part of me is getting the actual book and just looking at the artwork.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things of Paizo books is seeing all of the artwork that Ryan Reynolds do.
Yeah, he's very good at what he does for sure.
Alright.
Yeah, anybody else got anything? We're a little ahead of time. We're like 6 minutes ahead of time, but we can call it there.
It feels odd we are done early.
It's because Kane's not here to talk about stuff. And I really wish Kane would have showed up, because multi-classing in 2E feels a lot like, from what I'm reading, because I don't quite understand it because I've never played it, but I've heard tell in my comments that multiclassing is a lot like 4th edition's multiclassing was, and Kane, believe it or not, actually likes 4th edition. I know, right? Now I've associated myself with this person, and I'm terrible. But he does, he really does.
4th edition as a system is good for design for, but the main issue, it was the PR and how that was the issue why it wasn't popular.
Yeah, Kane always said that if it wasn't a Wizards of the Coast game, or as a D&D game rather, then it would be popular.
Yeah. I think his analogy was if it hadn't been as a D&D game, but had instead been launched as a WoW tabletop or a Magic the Gathering RPG tabletop, it would have been a lot more popular.
Yeah, that is definitely what he says. And I really wanted to hear his 2 cents on how multiclassing works in the playtest, because I think he's got his thumb a little more on the pulse on this one.
To add on top of as how multiclassing work, this remind me of some of the Unchained rules when it comes to multi-class classes. So every odd level or so, you from another class, but you don't get class features of the main class you're in effectively. If I remember how Unchained rules work.
Yeah, I think that's right. Pathfinder Unchained, I show up for the rogue, and that's like, we'll take that. That's real cool. And I like the DCs for intimidate and stuff.
The only 2 classes that I ever touched from the Unchained was the Unchained Summoner and the Unchained Rogue, and that's with it.
The Unchained Summoner is such a nerf, though.
But the Summoner was so broken that I'm pretty fine with it.
Fair, yeah. I think a lot of people feel the same way.
Well, I hope that there are some changes. Final thoughts from me. Changes for the multiclassing, but as far as do something to work out maybe the changes that could be better, it's either good or bad, like I said. So because if you progress too slowly with just looking back over it, Levi did point that out, and it is worth, because you do not get as many spells, which means if you want to play anything other than or a something like that, you're going to be out of luck, because you're not going to have the variety you need to be the caster of the group. You are definitely going to be a secondary caster. But all that said, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, we'll know more as time goes on. Again, I can definitely see this being something that Paizo walks back, depending on how well it goes out, and that's why we're only seeing 4 of them, not Core plus Alchemist. Though, for the record, I have a lot of character concepts in my head that would have loved dipping Alchemist for that mutagen, but I guess we can buy like a pseudo-mutagen as well, if I remember the Alchemy blog. I don't know, in a couple days I'll be nose deep in a book forever, and it's going to be super sweet. But for now, we're going to sign off. Again, we are joined today.
We'll see.
I should also say, it's not just Adam that's hanging out. It also is Donald, friend of the channel, Lucia LaCroix, Baku Ebony Feather, lots of characters, as well as... Oh, I guess I'll go ahead and say it, because I'm pretty sure that Gorilla King goes live before this does. The winner of Hail the Gorilla King, Queblin Gemin, Levi, friend of the channel.
No one expected it.
I didn't. I've underestimated the kineticist. Not gonna lie. Anywho, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos, guys, and we'll see you over at IOPC next time. Say bye, everyone.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.